Hello and welcome to my Unity tutorial. Today I'm going to show you some basics for imported prefabs. Let's jump right to it, shall we? As you can see, I have all the basic folders already created. So I'll start by creating a new plane for the ground. And there we go. I will the scale so we don't run out of space. Next, I'll create the material for my plane. I'm going to call it ground, and I'm going to choose a brown color for it, just like that. Then I simply drag it into my plate. Remember, you can also drag it into the object in the hierarchy. Next up, I'll import my prefabs. So for that, I'll use a few I've downloaded from XAML. The link will be available in the description. Right now, we have two basic prefabs and their animations, Xbot and Ybot. We'll simply select them and then drag them into the prefab folder. We'll just need to wait a bit for them to be loaded into the project. Once they're in, you can see them and start using them right away. Now I'll create two animators, so I can group all the animations that I imported. I'll call them Xbot movement and Ybot movement. The next step is placing my prefab into the scene. I'll just find it a good spot. Right there. Now I'll just adjust my camera so I can see it the way I want it. I'll move around a bit, and when I'm happy, I'll just select the camera and press Ctrl-Shift-F. Okay, you can see my game object is actually a group, but more on that later. The next step is dragging my animator into my game object, like so. And now I can use the animator to set the different animations that we'll use. We'll just drag this. We just need to drag them all, one by one. First, I drag the idle. I want it to be the default one, right? And we need to select loop time if we want it to loop. So it repeats over and over, right? If I click the play button now, we'll see how the object takes the animation from the start. Except it won't loop, because I forgot to click apply after I changed it. So we do it, and now we can see the animation looping properly. It's very important when you have breathe effects and that kind of thing. Now we add the rest of the animations. Jumping, punching, throw, throw object, and walking. I'm just going to align them. After this, we need some of the animations to go back into the idle position. We'll create transitions for that purpose. Not for walking though, more on that later. So there you go. And one for you. And one for you. Okay, so now if I select the throw object animation, you can see how it works, right? But if we wanted to make the default one to be this, we can just set it as a default animation. And if we press the play button, we will see how it runs once and then it goes to the idle animation, and that one loops forever. Okay, I'll just make this one my default one again. Okay, now we'll collapse these. We won't be using those right now. We're going to create a script. I'm going to call it x.movement. Next thing, I need to assign it to my game object, right? So I need to, okay. I need to drag it into my game object, and I'm going to double click on it to open Visual Studio so I can edit my file. Once it opens, we can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So, on the script side, I'll begin by making my object move when I press a key. So I'll do it like this. If input dot get button, and then we use the key name. No, wait, that's not right. So we use the key code, but if we were going to use key codes, we use get key, then key code up arrow, I'm going to copy this so we can reuse this little block here. We're going to use the same input get key, but we will change the key that we're listening for to the down arrow, the left arrow, and the right arrow. Right? So we're going to do this by moving our object or its transform forward, which means the z-axis. So we're going to do it like this. Transform, dot position plus equals transfer, no, vector 3. I'm going to show you something. If I use this vector 3 dot forward times move speed times time dot delta time, and I'm going to create a variable which is a float called move speed. And we'll just wait for it to compile. It takes a little bit depending on your computer. And then when I press the up key, you can see the game object moving. I'll copy that and use it for the down arrow, except there's no forward, so I'm just going to use minus equals. So now we're going to make our game object turn around. So we're going to do a transform rotate, and we're going to specify the angle on every axis. So this would be 0 and rotate speed times time dot delta time and 0. We don't have that, so we're going to create another public float rotate speed. This is going to be faster. And then the same thing for the right arrow, but the left arrow should rotate on a negative angle. So we're going to place a minus sign there. We wait for it to compile. Then we'll press our play button once more. Okay, so it's now moving, but it only moves in a single axis, no matter where I'm facing. So that's not right. Remember how I hesitated when I was typing that little bit of code? Well, that's the reason, because I used a vector 3 dot forward instead of transform position forward. So that's the reason. Now we only need to change this to transform forward here too, and that should be it. I'm going to increase the rotate speed because it's a little bit slow. So we'll wait for it to compile once again. And then we can press the play button. and we're now moving a little bit better, and it will move always in the direction that the object's facing. Right, so pretty cool, huh? But it's a bit stiff. We need to make an animation. So I'm going to create our animator variable right here, which is pretty much get component animator, so I can call it everywhere in my method, and we'll call all of our animations contained there, right? So we want the animator to play. The walking animation, right? So, oh, keep in mind it's case sensitive. So we needed to play the walking animation. But we also needed to return to the idle animation, right? So I'm going to get my key up. With my key code up arrow, or any of my other input keys. So I'm just going to copy this, so down, left, and right. Then animator.play my idle animation once more. Right? So once this one finish compiling, we wait for it to finish, and then when we play, we will see the transition between walking and idle when I press my keys. So we start walking. Oh, it stops. So we need to make it loop, right? If not, it will just stay stiff. So we select loop time and then apply, and there we go. We can press the play button once more, and it will continue to play as long as I'm pressing one of the keys. So it looks a bit more natural, right? Still not perfect, but much better now. I'll move the rotate speed so we can move a little faster. And there it is. Much better, right? Okay. So, okay, our next step will be to add the other animations with some other key bindings, right? Now, we're going to copy this, and then we're going to change to maybe space. We don't want to rotate, so I'll remove this, I just want to play the jumping animation. And that's that. Then I want the punching animation. I can remove these braces. And we'll say maybe A for punching. Right? And then the throwing animation. That will be S. And we'll make the throwing animation. Okay, so we want to make a different movement. So I'm going to make a little font thing here. I'm going to check the time that elapses between when I press a key and when I release the key. So I'm going to do input dot get key down with the S key. And then when I get the key up, we'll check the time that it's been pressed. So I'm going to create a variable here called total press time. Right? And I'm going to say here total press time. I'm going to use fixed time. Yes, fixed time for this. So total press time equals time dot fixed time. Right? So now I'm going to make total press time, then again equals total press time minus time dot fixed time. Right? Okay, so if it's not clear enough, I can make a comment. So now I'm going to make a comparison to check how long the key has been pressed. So if total press time is less than, I don't know, maybe 100, it actually depends on a few things, but I'll let you know. So if it's less than 100, then it will be throwing or thrown object. Now, we can make it 1000, but the time object, it's actually in seconds, so 1000 might be too much. So we'll make it 3 seconds. Now what will happen is that it won't change a thing. I'm going to show you that, but the reason for that is not particularly obvious. So we're going to add a debug line. Well, first let's change the name of the objects, of the animations, and we will add a debug.log the total press time. And we will see on the console what happens. So if we press the S button and then release it, we'll see that the numbers are negative. The reason is because the fixed time will always be greater. So we need to swap those values, right? So we'll do it. We'll just move this around. Once that's done, we can remove the debug line. I'm not going to use it anymore. Save. We can go back to Unity. And now that it's finished, we can press the play button once more. And we can see it here in the animator. See that if we press it and keep it pressed long enough, we'll use the throw object animation. There it is. And if we just tap it, it will make a quick throw. We can also punch, or jump, and walk. So now our little game object does everything we want him to. Well, that's pretty much it. Just one last thing. Don't forget to save your scene, or else you're going to lose everything. So this is it. I hope you liked it, and I'll be around.